I want you to imagine something for me. Imagine you've spent 40 years building an empire, working every single day, sacrificing everything, your time, your health, your relationships, all for money, for security, for wealth. And then your own son looks you dead in the eye and asks you one simple question that destroys everything you've ever believed. That happened to me on a Tuesday afternoon in October 2019. I was 70 years old. And that one question changed my entire life, changed my son's life, my husband's life, and the lives of people I'd never even met. My name is Margaret Richardson. Everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 73 years old and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. And this is my story. Let me take you back to 1975. I was 26 years old, just married my high school sweetheart, Tom Richardson. We had a baby on the way, my son David. We lived in a tiny one-bedroom apartment in a rough part of town, and Tom was working construction while I was waitressing at a diner. We were broke. I mean, truly broke. There were nights I cried myself to sleep because I didn't know how we'd pay the electric bill. Days I went hungry so Tom could eat enough to work. Times I wore the same worn-out shoes until my feet bled because I couldn't afford new ones. And I made myself a promise. Never again, I said. I will never be poor again. I will never let my child go without. I will build something. I will make money. I will be secure. And I did. I worked. Oh God, how I worked. I took every shift at the diner, every double, every holiday. While other mothers were home with their babies, I was working. While other wives were having dinner with their husbands, I was working. And then I started my own cleaning business. Started small, just me and a mop bucket, cleaning offices at night after my diner shifts. But I was good. I was reliable. I was cheap. Word spread. Within 5 years, I had 20 employees. Within 10 years, I had contracts with every major office building in Charlotte. Within 20 years, I had a commercial cleaning empire worth millions. Millions. The poor girl who couldn't afford shoes now owned 3 houses, drove a Mercedes, had investments, savings, security. But I didn't have much else. In 1998, when my son David was 23 years old, something happened that should have changed everything. But it didn't. Tom, my husband, my high school sweetheart, the father of my child, was in a terrible car accident. A drunk driver ran a red light, T-boned Tom's pickup truck on the driver's side. He survived, barely, but he was never the same. Traumatic brain injury, spinal damage, paralyzed from the waist down, needed round-the-clock care. The doctor said he'd need me, need family, need love and patience and time. But I had a business to run. Medical bills were piling up, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Insurance didn't cover everything. We needed money. I had to work. Someone had to pay for his care, his medications, his special equipment, the home modifications. So I hired nurses, I hired caregivers, physical therapists, occupational therapists. I hired everyone except myself. I threw money at the problem instead of giving him what he actually needed. Me. But I told myself I was doing the right thing. I was providing. I was making sure he had the best care money could buy. Truth is, I was scared. Scared to see him like that. Scared to face what we'd lost. Scared to slow down. Because if I slowed down, if I stopped working, I'd have to feel it all. So I worked more. Always more. My son David grew up watching all of this, watching me work 70, 80-hour weeks, watching me choose business over family, watching me hire strangers to care for his father while I was out making deals. He tried to talk to me about it. Many times. Mom, when's the last time you actually sat with Dad? Just talk to him? I talk to him, I'd say. I call him every day from the office. That's not the same, Mom. He needs you there. I need you there. I'm working for you, for him, to make sure you both have everything you need. We don't need money, Mom. We need you. But I didn't listen. I never listened. David got married in 2005. Beautiful wedding. His wife, Sarah, was sweet, kind, everything I should have been. I wrote a check for $50,000 for their wedding, but I was on my phone during the ceremony, left early for a business emergency. I missed my own son's first dance with his bride because I was closing a deal. They had their first baby, my first grandchild, Emma, in 2007. I met her when she was 3 weeks old, held her for maybe 20 minutes before I had to take a conference call. When Emma was 2 years old, David asked me to babysit for one evening. Just one evening. He and Sarah needed a break. I said no. I had a meeting. It was a networking dinner, drinks with potential clients. Nothing that couldn't have been rescheduled. But I said no. That's when David stopped asking. By 2015, my business was worth over $8 million. I had it all. On paper. And that's when my family started to show their true colors. Tom's medical expenses were enormous. The insurance had long since capped out. We were paying out of pocket for everything. $15,000 a month for his care facility, medications, equipment. My younger brother, James, called me one day. Maggie, Tom's been like this for 17 years now. The doctors say he's never going to get better. Maybe it's time to, consider other options. Other options, state-run facility, Medicaid. Let the government pay for it. You've done enough. You've paid enough. Think about yourself. Protect your assets. He was telling me to abandon my husband so I could keep my money, my own brother. Telling me to dump my disabled husband in some state home where he'd be warehoused with 100 other forgotten people. I told him to go to hell, but that wasn't the end. My business partner of 20 years, a woman I considered family, came to me with a proposal. Maggie, you're 70 years old. You have a disabled husband draining your resources, a son who barely talks to you, no retirement plan. You need to think about selling the business, cashing out, securing your future. I'm not selling. Then at least make me a full partner, 50-50. That way, if something happens to you, the business doesn't die, and I can help shoulder the financial burden. Something felt wrong, but I was tired. So tired. I almost signed the papers until my accountant called me 3 days before the signing and told me she'd been systematically embezzling from me for 8 years. My partner, my friend, she'd stolen over $600,000. $600,000. And she'd planned to get me to sign over half the business, then push me out completely. The people I trusted, the people I'd worked with, laughed with, built a life with. They saw me as a bank account, a resource to drain. Not a person, just money. October 15th, 2019, I was 70 years old. I was sitting in my home office, a beautiful room in my beautiful house that I was always too busy to enjoy, when my son David knocked on my door. We hadn't really talked, really talked, in years. Our relationship was polite, surface level. He'd call on holidays. I'd send checks for the grandkids' birthdays. But that day, he looked different, older, tired, sad. Mom, can we talk? I almost said I was busy. Almost. But something in his eyes stopped me. Of course, sweetheart. Sit down. He sat across from me, looked at me for a long moment, and then he asked me the question that changed my life. Mom, when you die, are you planning to bring your wealth to heaven? I didn't understand. What? David, what are you? Mom, you have $8 million, 3 houses, investment properties, retirement accounts, a business empire. But Dad sits in a facility with nurses who don't know his favorite song, don't know he used to build furniture with his hands, don't know he loves baseball. Your grandkids barely know you. Emma is 12 years old and she's seen you maybe 10 times in her entire life. Your brother wants you to abandon Dad to save money. Your business partner tried to rob you blind. You have millions of dollars and no one to share it with. So I'm asking you, Mom, what's the plan? Are you taking all this money with you when you die? because right now you're dying alone, rich, but alone. Is that what you want on your headstone? He was wealthy. I couldn't speak. I sat there in my expensive office, in my expensive house, surrounded by expensive things, and I realized I had nothing. Nothing that mattered. I'd spent 40 years building wealth, and I'd lost everything worth having. Mom, it's not too late. It's never too late. But you have to choose money or people, wealth or love. What's it going to be? I made my decision that night. The very next morning, I walked into my business and announced I was stepping back, promoting my assistant general manager, a young woman who'd been loyal for 15 years, to CEO. I restructured the company, created profit sharing for all employees, set up a trust that would ensure everyone who'd built this company with me would benefit from it. And I stopped taking a salary because I didn't need more money. I needed more time. I went to the care facility where Tom had been living for 21 years. I walked into his room, and I really looked at him for the first time in years. He was 73 years old, silver hair, lines on his face, thin, so thin. But when he saw me, when I sat down beside his bed and took his hand, he smiled. After everything, after years of me abandoning him, neglecting him, throwing money at him instead of giving him love, he smiled at me and he squeezed my hand. I made arrangements to bring him home, hired a full-time nurse, converted our first floor den into an accessible bedroom, had ramps installed, got all the equipment. But more than that, I learned his schedule, his medications, his preferences, his needs. I fed him breakfast every morning, read him the newspaper, played his favorite Motown records. I learned that he loved it when I described the birds that came to the feeder outside his window, that he still laughed at old Laurel and Hardy movies, that he liked his coffee with 2 sugars, not 1. All these things I should have known, should have been doing for 20 years. But better late than never. My son David watched all of this, watched me transform, watched me choose people over profit. And slowly, carefully, he let me back in. He brought the kids over, Emma, who was 12, and her little brother Jake, who was 8. At first, they were shy around me. This grandmother they barely knew. But I showed up. Every Sunday dinner, every school play, every soccer game, every birthday party, not with a checkbook, with my presence. I taught Emma how to bake my mother's apple pie recipe, taught Jake how to play checkers, read them bedtime stories when they stayed over on weekends, and they started calling me Grandma Maggie, not grandmother, not Mrs. Richardson, Grandma Maggie. But the change didn't stop with my family. Remember that business I'd built? The cleaning company, with profit sharing and a CEO who actually cared about the workers. It transformed. Employee turnover dropped to almost 0. Productivity soared. Culture shifted from just a job to we're building something together. And I started using my wealth the way I should have been using it all along. Set up a scholarship fund for children of employees who wanted to go to college. Started a foundation that helped families with disabled members get the care and equipment they needed, the kind of help I could have used in 1998 but was too proud to ask for. Partnered with local churches and community centers to provide job training and financial literacy classes for people trying to escape poverty. The money I'd hoarded for so long, it started to mean something. It started to change lives. Tom lived for 3 more years after I brought him home. 3 precious, beautiful years. He passed away quietly in his sleep on a Sunday morning in June 2022. I was holding his hand. And the last thing he did before he died was squeeze my hand back. I miss him every single day, but I don't regret those 3 years. I cherish them. Because I got to say goodbye, got to love him the way I should have all along, got to be his wife again, not his bank account. His wife. I'm 73 years old now. I live in a modest house, downsized from the mansion I never needed. I drive a 10-year-old Toyota Camry, sold the Mercedes. Turns out, both cars get you to the same place. My son David and I have dinner together every Wednesday night. I see my grandkids all the time. Emma's 15 now, thinking about college. Jake's 11 and plays baseball. I go to every game, every recital, every parent-teacher conference. And you know what? They actually want me there, not my money. Me. I still have money. I'm not poor, but I'm not rich in the way I used to think mattered. I'm rich in family dinners, rich in hugs from my grandchildren, rich in knowing that when I die, people will remember me for who I loved, not what I owned. So let me answer my son's question, the one he asked me that October day in 2019. Mom, when you die, are you planning to bring your wealth to heaven? No, I'm not. Because you can't take money with you when you die. You can't take houses, cars, bank accounts, stock portfolios. None of it matters when you're gone. What matters is the love you gave, the people you helped, the lives you touched, the difference you made. My wealth didn't change the world. My wealth didn't make me happy. My wealth didn't save my marriage or build a relationship with my son. But when I stopped worshiping wealth, when I started using it the way it was meant to be used, when I gave it away, shared it, invested it in people instead of hoarding it, that changed everything. Changed my son's life. He saw his mother become the person she was always meant to be. Changed my husband's life. He got to spend his final years at home, loved and cared for. Changed my grandchildren's lives. They have a grandmother who shows up, who loves them, who's present. Changed the lives of my employees and their families. Changed the lives of people I'll never even meet through the foundation and scholarships. That one question my son asked me, it saved my life, not my bank account. My life. If you're listening to my story right now, and you're working 70-hour weeks to build wealth, sacrificing time with your family to make more money, missing your kids' childhoods because you're busy building a future, please hear me, please. I'm not saying money doesn't matter. It does. We need it to survive, to provide, to feel secure. But there's a difference between having enough and sacrificing everything for more. There's a difference between providing for your family and providing everything except yourself. Your children don't need a bigger house. They need you at their soccer games. Your spouse doesn't need a fancier car. They need you to look up from your phone at dinner. Your life doesn't need more zeros in the bank account. It needs more moments, more presence, more love. Because when you're lying on your deathbed, you won't be thinking about the deal you closed. You'll be thinking about the dance recital you missed. You won't be proud of your stock portfolio. You'll be wishing you'd spent more time with the people you love. And if you're very, very lucky, like I was, you'll get a second chance. Someone will ask you the question that changes everything. So I'm asking you now before it's too late. When you die, are you planning to bring your wealth to heaven? Or are you going to use it right now to build heaven here on earth? The choice is yours. Choose wisely. Choose love. I promise you won't regret it. I'm 73 years old. I don't have much time left. But when I go, I won't be taking my wealth with me. I'll be leaving behind something far more valuable. Love, memories, legacy, a foundation that will help families for generations. Grandchildren who knew their Grandma Maggie loved them. A son who watched his mother transform and chose to live differently himself. And most importantly, no regrets. No regrets. Thank you for listening to my story. Now go live yours.